Well, OKC got 45, a career high from SGA, and they would hold on after the Clippers came back down 20 to win 134 to 128 over your Los Angeles Clippers. Welcome into your post-game show. I'm Adam Oslin. Coming up, we got second half highlights, your post-game box score, and more. But first, back out to Paycom Center with your radio voice of the Clippers in Carlo Jimenez. Carlo, a frustrating one for Clipper Nation because they battled back. It was there, but self-inflicted wounds once again down the stretch. That Harden turnover leading to the jump ball. Couple of missed free throws late. We have seen this story before.
Yeah, a tough one for the Clips in the matter of you felt like you could have had this one, right? After being down by 20 in that third quarter, despite all the mistakes. I think the Clippers had Adam 20 turnovers at that point in the ball game, and yet they came all the way back. They made it a 2-point game late down the stretch, but they're unable to get over the hill. OKC, who is so good at home, remains undefeated when going into a third quarter. I think, though, Adam, there's so much positive to take from a game like this early in the season. I think a game like this gives you all the confidence in the world. All the confidence in the world for this Clipper team. You turn over 25 times. Norman Powell has 2 points in the first half, and yet you almost win a game in which Norm fouls out and Harden has 5 fouls and shoots 5 for 15 from the field. The Clippers learned that they can go step by step with the best team in the West on the road in a hostile environment. They were right there tonight, and I think this lets them know the bar is high. I mean, this is no longer a team. I know they talked about understanding that all the analysts, all the media, everyone picked them to be next year. Some people didn't even have them in the play-in. But I think this game, this kind of performance sets that standard really, really high for this team because on a night where you make so many mistakes, you still had a chance to win the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I find more positives in this game, even in a loss, than maybe the positives we found in the last games in a win in some ways because you're down big, self-inflicted wounds, 15 turnovers in the first half alone, and they couldn't figure out how to get Ivica Zubac involved early, and they finally did in that second shift with him in the third quarter. Norm started to cook, 29 points in the second half. He wasn't deterred by the fact that he had that slow start. He's looking like a star right now, even against one of the best teams out there with all the guys in the world you could want to D up Norman Powell in the second half. They couldn't stop him, and this Clippers team fought down the stretch. They did not give in. They had some tough calls go against them, and they were still right there.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Adam. OKC shoots 23 free throws tonight. They make 22 of them. It takes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to have a career high 45 points, 5 steals, and hits 15 free throws, and the Clippers were right there the whole way. You really feel like this is a game, despite not being able to come away with the win, gives you the confidence that unless you're playing Adam, one of the top teams out west, the Clippers should be winning every single night. If anything, they should be in every single game they play. There's no reason not to with their play right now. In a night where you have 24 turnovers, you're within 6. I mean, are you kidding me? Against Oklahoma City, this is a team that did all the wrong and right things. And if you do a little less wrong things, you probably win this game.
Yeah, and the Clippers are still without Kawhi Leonard. We can talk about OKC not having their big men right now, but the Clippers are missing Kawhi Leonard. And I think their margin for error is wider than we thought going into this season with how they have played over the last week or so. Being in a game like this against OKC with all the mistakes they had made and still having a chance to win late on the road, it says something about this group. You see Norman Powell playing like an all-star right now. They're more talented, I think, offensively than maybe we gave them credit for after the first handful of games. They are showing something right now that they can hang with anyone.
They really can, Adam. The defense is there in the half court. They are up there with the best in terms of their defense. And the offense, when they have their superstars going, I mean, even today when James Harden wasn't going well, the Clippers only were down 13, I believe, at halftime against Oklahoma City with Harden struggling from the field and Norm being essentially a non-factor to start this ball game. The Clippers showed today that the standard is much higher than I think anyone thought, Adam, coming into this year. That's what we learned today here at Paycom.
Yeah, I'm proud of this group. I'm interested to hear what Coach Lou says post-game. I know he'll touch upon the turnover issue, but there was something to this game that maybe the Clippers are even, I don't know, reinforcing that identity of theirs, that they are not giving up no matter what the score is, because down 20 on the road to OKC could have broke them, just like being down 26 at home to the San Antonio Spurs. They came back and won that game. They came up just short in the comeback this time, but I like what we saw in the second half. They made the right adjustments. If they just started this game differently, it could have been a different outcome, Carlo. But they will try to get back up on the horse. They will be in Texas, taking on the Rockets. A little 2-game mini-series, a baseball mini-series, I think is what you called it earlier. Wednesday and Friday in Houston against the Rockets. Tip time, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday. We'll have your pregame show right back here at 4. Carlo Jimenez, great call as always. Talk to you on Wednesday, my friend.
Talk to you Wednesday, Adam. If you want to turn this one into a positive, you got to bring it to Houston. We'll see you there. Let's go.
And even bigger because we know the OKC Thunder have a pick swap with either the Clippers or the Houston Rockets, likely the team that finishes worse in the standings. So a big 2-game mini-series coming up. More on this one after the Clippers lose in OKC. The comeback came up short. 134-128 was your final. Again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a career-high 45 points in the win. More Clippers postgame right after this. You're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers battled but come up short. Thanks to 20-plus turnovers. They would lose in Oklahoma City 134-128 to SGA, who went for a career high 45 points in the victory. Clippers dropped to 6-5 on the season. Welcome back into your Clippers post-game show. I'm Adam Osland. Coming up, we'll have Clippers talk for you on AM 570 LA Sports. 866-987-2570. 866-987-2570 is the phone number. Let's get to some second half highlights here. Clippers battled. They were down big. They were down by as many as 20 in this one. They were down 66-53 at the half, got down by 20 in that third quarter. But then Norman Powell, who only had 2 points in the first half, off of free throws, started to cook in that third quarter.
Back out to Norm. Jabs right, moves left, gets around Williams, glides to the rim and lays it up with left hand. Norman Powell with the finish and bound it done. Left wing Norman Powell dribbles to the right hand, sizing up Caruso. All right, wing three, laces it from downtown. 10-point game. Minute 15 to go in the third. Caruso looks for help, bounces it. Norman Powell, the takeaway. He's got Dylan Jones tailgating. Norm to the rim, lays it up with the right hand, and it rolls through for two. Norman Powell on the right wing with 15 in the frame. Dribbles to the right hand with 3 seconds. Right wing with 2 seconds. A right corner three, falling away. He buries it! Norman Powell!
Norman Powell had 18 points in the third quarter alone. Got the Clippers back into this one. In the fourth quarter, it was back and forth. The Clippers just could not get enough stops as OKC had 35 points in the fourth quarter. Also got to the charity stripe, charitably, quite often there. The Clippers could not defend without fouling. Norman Powell would foul out of this game, but still was doing damage in the fourth, scoring-wise before that. Norm continued to hit some big shots, but the Clippers would fall 134 to 128. That is your final in OKC. Clippers will be in Houston on Wednesday for a Texas two-step. 2 games in Houston, 2-game mini-series, Wednesday and Friday. Tip-off on Wednesday, same time at 5 p.m. More on this one, final box score, coming up next after the Clippers lose by 6 in OKC to the Thunder. And you're listening to the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. Clippers lose a heartbreaker in OKC in a game where they were down by as many as 20. They had it down to 3 points late. Not good enough execution. They missed 3 big free throws. And then that jump ball between Lou Dort and James Harden after James Harden lost the basketball. Huge play there. OKC hit their free throws. SGA went for a career high 45 points. And the Clippers ended up, by my tally, it says 21 turnovers, leading to 25 points. What's amazing is OKC only had 11 turnovers, and the Clippers got 21 points off those 11 turnovers. That's incredible. So the Clippers, in some ways, they had moments of brilliance where they played some of their best basketball, and other times some of their worst basketball this season. Just an absolute mixed bag. And you know what? It was 24 turnovers. And OKC didn't have one in the fourth quarter. So they were better down the stretch. They out-executed the Clippers, and the Clippers were in a hole heading into that fourth quarter. As good as Norman Powell was, hitting that three-pointer to end the third, incredible shot, falling out of bounds, bringing it to within 5. OKC closed better. They went 22 of 23 at the charity stripe. The Clippers, they missed 9 free throws on this one. But one by Ivica Zubac late, one by James Harden, one by Norman Powell. It has been a running theme. I'm proud of the group in many ways, but they were also their own worst enemies. These self-inflicted wounds have to stop. And I felt like early on they were trying to play at OKC's pace, and that is a problem. Still, great performance from Derrick Jones Jr., who dropped 20, 8 of 13 shooting, 4 of 5 from distance. Norman Powell with his 31, 29 of which came in the second half. James Harden continues to struggle from the field. 5 of 15, did hit a couple of key three-pointers, 17 points, 9 assists, but 5 turnovers for him. Off the bench, Amir Coffey was awesome, 13 points in 27 minutes. Clippers just can't put themselves in a hole down 20. Not against OKC. Clippers lose this one, 134 to 128. They fought, they battled, but their comeback comes up short. They'll regroup, get back after it against Houston on Wednesday. Tip-off is at 5, pregame show at 4. Outside of Los Angeles, we are leaving you. Until then, coming up next on AM 570 LA Sports, though, we'll have Clippers talk. Stop me if you heard this one before. Late game turnovers and missed free throws doing the Clippers as they battled back down 20 in OKC against SGA, who had a career high 45 points but come up short. Clippers lose 134 to 128 to the Thunder. Welcome into Clippers Talk here on AM 570 LA Sports. 866-987-2570 is the phone number if you'd like to get on. But while we have a moment, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification here on the Los Angeles Clippers Audio Network. With you till a little bit after the bottom of the hour, but this was a frustrating one. Clipper Nation, I understand that because this was the first game I felt like this season. And I don't mean to start with this off the top, but people are blowing me up at Clippers Talk on the YouTube side saying, we got a bad whistle. And I thought they did too. Norman Powell fouls out on a pretty weak call. They reviewed it. They upheld it. James Harden had 5 fouls. He was in trouble. I mean, how many guys were in foul trouble in this game? Chris Dunn off the bench had a couple of fouls that went against him where I didn't see the consistency with the level of physicality they were letting OKC play with compared to the Clippers. I didn't like that. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason the Clippers lost the ball game. It didn't help, but they put themselves in that predicament where they were down big early on because of all the turnovers. I said heading into this game, key to victory, 12 turnovers or less. They had 15 in the first half alone. That can't happen. Not against the Thunder. And I think I know why it happened. They couldn't figure it out early with Ivica Zubac. Once again against OKC to start this game, just like last game, when they tried to exploit him against the smalls and Caruso and little guys trying to double him and J-Dub, they couldn't figure it out initially. They kept making the mistake of making the entry pass always from the top of the key. That's a harder pass to make when guys are fronting him. If you get it to somebody on the wing to make the pass, then Zoo can seal his man and you can find the angle a little bit easier. They finally got it going in the second half. Finally, after his second stint in the third quarter. But I'm telling you, they weren't going to be able to beat OKC at their own game, playing small and trying to run with a team that's top 5 in pace that also is the best defense in the league by a mile. The OKC Thunder's defensive rating is like 10 points better per 100 possessions than the next best defense. It's incredible. So trying to play at their pace, I think, is what got the Clippers turning the ball over. I think it got them sped up. I'm interested to hear from Coach Lue about that. Because at times they were successful and at times the turnovers were coming in bunches. I think OKC had 11 more shot attempts in the first half than the Clippers. Let me see. Make it 9, 51-42. 9 more shot attempts in the first half as the Clippers had 15 turnovers to 5 for OKC in the first 24 minutes. They're not going to beat them at their own game. They had to figure out how to get Ivica Zubac involved against a team playing small. Not letting him get doubled, turn the ball over. I think one of the first plays of the game was a turnover by Ivica Zubac as they tried to give him the basketball. That one was completely on him. I think there were some good lessons learned, though, because in the second half, in the third quarter, in that second stint, they finally got Zoo going. And that was the difference. That's when the Clippers started to make their run. That's when things changed. After they had another turnover to start the third quarter, Derrick Jones Jr. was looking for Ivica Zubac. And the Clippers ended up going small early on in the second half. Then when they came back to Zoo, down 15 at the 4-minute mark, that's when they started to cook. Harden knocked down a couple of three-pointers. Zoo dunked on Dort. Dort off a pass from, I think, Norman Powell on the left wing. Harden still got an offensive foul. There were a ton of those in the game for the Clippers, it felt like. Zoo had an and one, though, off a KPJ pass from the wing. He started to crush them. End of the third quarter in the last 4 minutes. He had a dunk to make it an 8-point game. After Chris Dunn was the first to a loose ball that ended up in a Norman Powell three-pointer, who also got going in that third quarter after having just 2 points in the first half. At the charity stripe, no less. Norman Powell had 18 points in the third quarter alone. But there was a play where Chris Dunn went to the floor faster than anybody I've ever seen for a loose ball. Right before a Norman Powell 3 to bring it to within 10. Then a Zoo dunk brought it to 8. A steal and a Norm layup, and it's down to 6. And then he ends up getting a three-pointer to end the third quarter from the far side corner. Just a ridiculous high degree of difficulty shot. And the Clippers, who were down 20 in the third, had it to within 5 to start the fourth. And then it was Zoo over Caruso to start the fourth quarter. But then he missed a couple of good looks against Caruso. One, there was a double or a triple team there. He tried to force it. But you got to take advantage of the smalls. Mouse in the house. So after making his first shot of the fourth, he missed 2 in a row. Clippers, though, were still hanging in there. Yes, the turnovers would hurt them. One from Amir Coffey leading to an Alex Caruso bucket, 107-99. Then Ivica Zubac was not found by James Harden at around the 9-minute mark on an inbounds pass with 0.8 seconds left. When Zoo had the mismatch, he went away from him. It ended up being a 24-second violation, another turnover. So let's see how many they had in the fourth quarter alone. I'll say this. They did their best work in the fourth. After having 15 turnovers at the half and 6 more in the third quarter, the Clippers ended the fourth at 24. So they only had 3 turnovers in the final 12 minutes. I'll give them that. But it's just the totality of them. You put yourself in a hole like that against OKC, it's a problem. And they made a ton of big shots. Lou Dort, J-Dub, SGA, of course. The Clippers really pushed them. And OKC, I don't think it was so much that the Clippers were just awful down the stretch of this game, but OKC had a lead, and they made big shots to hold on to it. There were some huge shots, though, by the Clippers. A Norm 3 to make it a 5-point game. Dort responds with a jumper. Norm gets to the line, goes 1 for 2. 6-point game. A J-Dub bucket, back to 8. Zoo spins on J-Dub on the other end. 6-point game again. SGA bucket, 8-point game. They're responding to everything. James Harden gets hit by the elbow of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the temple. He was out for a second. Then he gets fouled. Goes 1 of 2. 7-point game. Could have been 6. Then Zoo had a crazy offensive rebound, though, off of his missed free throw that led to a Norm 3. So, I don't know, blessing in disguise, he missed that second free throw, James Harden. But then a J-Dub 3 to respond. So the lead is back to 8. Offensive rebound from Derrick Jones Jr. was also a big play. Zubac goes to the line, though, after they get a stop. And then he misses one. It's a 3-point game. Like, they all add up. Him, James Harden, Norman Powell missing free throws. SGA immediately hits a 3. Doubles the score from a 3-point game to a 6-point game. Then Norm has this ridiculous reverse layup in traffic with 3 defenders there. Takes it down to a 4-point game. But then he fouls out. Weak foul. I agree with you guys. They challenged it to no avail. Isaiah Joe layup. Turned out to be a 7-point game after they hit the free throw after the foul too. But then Harden with the oop to Derrick Jones Jr. to make it a 5-point game. Like, the Clippers did not give up at all. That resilient nature remained intact. That's what has me encouraged in some ways by this loss, more than I was encouraged in some ways by wins, honestly. Almost giving a game away to the Toronto Raptors. The Clippers had it down 5, 45 seconds left, and Ivica Zubac gets the and 1, and this time does hit the free throw. It is a 2-point game at 130-128. But another foul. SGA gets fouled by Amir Coffey on a jumper. Tough call again. He hit both. It's 132-128, and then Harden gets clamped by Lou Dort, loses the basketball, turns into a jump ball. OKC wins it, and they win the game, 134-128. My point is, if this Clippers team could have figured out early on how to unlock Ivica Zubac and get him going and impose their will, and they tried. I mean, they had how many stints with Ivica Zubac before they figured it out? At least 3 before that second stint in the third quarter around the 4-minute mark where they finally figured out how to get him going. Finally. Had they just been able to do that earlier in the game, they wouldn't have been down 20. They wouldn't have had as many turnovers, I don't think, because they were trying to play small and play at OKC's pace, and that's not going to work. even when they won their minutes initially in the first quarter by going small, I want to say they went like +4. At one point, right away, they went +8 when they put Batum in. They were only down by 1 after the first quarter, but then they started to lose those small ball minutes. It wasn't sustainable. The only path to victory to me would be getting Ivica Zubac going. And whether it was on him or on the guys getting him the basketball and making poor post-entry passes, they couldn't do it the first 3 or 4 stints with Ivica Zubac till the end of the third quarter. Too little, too late. They were down by at least 15 by the time they figured it out. And OKC out-executed them to a degree, I guess, late. I mean, they hit a lot of big shots and they hit a lot of free throws. I didn't think the Clippers, though, were awful. Only 3 turnovers in the fourth. Yes, 3 missed free throws. One of them turned into a three-pointer, though, off an offensive rebound on the second one missed by Harden. So it's really 2 that hurt you. They weren't perfect, but it wasn't that they were so bad in the critical moments as it was OKC answering every time the Clippers made a shot or getting to the free throw line and the Clippers not being able to defend without fouling on some pretty ticky-tack weak calls. We'll take your phone calls. You know what? I'll go to one right now. Mike in LA. Mike, you're on Clippers Talk with Adam Moslin. What's up?
22, 24, 25 turnovers.
24,
and
Mike.
How many missed free throws? 24 turnovers and what was it? 9 missed free throws?
9.
I mean, it's amazing that they got back in it.
Well, guess what? They went
something encouraging about that.
They had their best three-point shooting game of the season. This might be their best of the entire season. They went 20 of 37 from 3. That's 54%.
Wow. I mean, I like the fight for them to, get back in it when they were down 20 and to, make a game of it. But I mean, I guess, is it on the coaching staff? I know the coaches aren't out there passing the ball.
Yeah, they're telling them to make those turnovers, Mike. That's what they're telling them.
Yes, exactly. No, I mean, yes, obviously. Yes, no.
No, I think it's what I said. They got sped up trying to play at OKC's pace. OKC was top 5 in pace coming into this game. The Clippers were 29th. But when things weren't working without Ivica Zubac or, with him early on, they had to make an adjustment. They went small. They got into a track meet, and they either got a three-pointer or turned the basketball over. It felt like every possession. One or the other.
It really did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I guess we're on to Houston, and hopefully we can, get 2 wins there. We need them.
I agree with you, Mike. It's good to hear from you, my friend. All right. Don't be a stranger.
Absolutely. Well, not. Absolutely.
Coming up, more of your phone calls at 866-987-2570, 866-987-2570. Got you for the next 20 minutes or so here on Clippers Talk on AM 570 LA Sports. After their comeback comes up short, too many turnovers, too many mistakes, and too deep of a hole against too good of a team in the Oklahoma City Thunder. With SGA going for 45, his career high against his former team in the Clippers, and hitting 15 of 16 free throws attempted. That is a really big number. 16. Wow. All right. Coming up next, more Clippers talk here on AM 570 LA Sports. That turnover thing, Clippers had 24. Clippers lose 134-128 in OKC to the Thunder. Lauren Hill on the way in here. Welcome back into Clippers Talk. I'm Adam Oslin, the official post-game show of your Los Angeles Clippers, whether you're listening on AM 570 LA Sports or watching on the YouTube side at Clippers Talk. Look, people are asking, when's Kawhi coming back? I mean, guys, come on. What are we doing here? No one knows. I can't know. If you're asking that question in the chat tonight, that's a mute. I can't take it. I mean, just listen to the pregame show with La Murray. So we got La Murray sound coming up too. But I asked him the question about Kawhi, and nobody knows. Nobody can know. Yes, they could be 8-2 or 7-4 if they had Kawhi right now, or 8-3. This was game 11, but neither here nor there. Yeah, Terrence Mann wasn't great again. He did knock down a big three-pointer in the second half, I believe. But he only played 18 minutes. They're closing with guys who are getting it done. Amir Coffey, Chris Dunn. They've outplayed Terrence Mann, without a doubt, through 11 games. And I'm not here to defend it. If they went away from Terrence Mann in the starting lineup, I wouldn't bat an eye. I wouldn't. Now, do I think it's the reason they're losing, or when they lose, it's on Terrence Mann? Not really. It's as simple as if he doesn't play well early or doesn't play as well as those guys, he doesn't get heavy minutes. So, yeah, tough one because of the turnovers, tough one because of, people are pointing out that, well, the Clippers actually attempted more free throws than the OKC Thunder. Okay, great. Like, the timing of some of the calls, the late calls, like, just because they attempted more doesn't mean, I know from Clipper Nation's perspective, that they felt all of those were legit fouls or obvious fouls or not ticky-tack fouls that the Clippers were being called for, right? I felt like the Clippers were aggressive. I'm not complaining about them not getting enough calls. I'm complaining about some of the calls that went against them, and it's the only time this season I've said anything about the officials. It happens like once or twice a year. Do I think that's why they lost? No. If you have 24 turnovers and miss 9 free throws yourself, there's your problem. You got to look internally first about what you can do better. So here was La Murray post-game with Ivica Zubac. I want you guys to hear this audio. It's not that one, though. It's this one. Maybe it's this one. Do we got it?
Playing against that kind of lineup, nobody over 6'6", basically. What was the adjustment that you had to make from the first half, second half, to kind of have the game that you did?
Just, we had, they were throwing me early post-ups, so, in a set defense, they were shrinking the floor, they were trying to double from the baseline, they were going the first pass, so I didn't have a good spacing, so I kept turning the ball over, and it was just, they were throwing the ball, I wasn't taking the ball out going after the makes, I was the first one down the floor, and they would throw it to me when there was no help, there was no strengths on the floor, and I could play against the defense was not set, so I was playing against small one-on-one.
What can you take away from this game from a defensive standpoint?
I mean, not much. They scored 130, so not much.
Yeah, nice fade out there by Katie Newton. I felt that deep. Not much. Shout out Petros and Money Show. Clippers lose by 6. There was big Zoo post game, 134-128. Your final in OKC as SGA went for a career high 45 points. Kind of salt in the wound. Insult to injury. He does it against his former team that traded him for Paul George, who's no longer here. Of course, it wasn't just for Paul George. It was to get Kawhi Leonard. If you get Paul George, Kawhi would sign. A little more complicated. National media won't tell you that sometimes, though. They'll just put up the trade graphic and be like, hey, they gave up all these picks just for Paul George. Like, no, it was because they had an agreement from Kawhi Leonard. that he would come if they did the trade for Paul George. So it's really for 2 players. I know nuance is tough. It was the Clippers only having 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. That has me somewhat encouraged. They still missed 3 free throws. One of them ended up in a 3-pointer made, though, on an offensive rebound by Ivica Zubac. And some of the stuff he was talking about there, I totally agree with, and it makes sense. When they could get a stop and then beat OKC down the floor, and Ivica Zubac was hustling down the floor, so they wouldn't be able to load up on him with a double team or a triple team because their defense wasn't set yet. When they could kind of get in, a semi-transition, then they get in the basketball with just one-on-one coverage, and he was just detonating on whoever was guarding him. Caruso, J-Dub, didn't matter. Zoo was getting that bucket. They struggled, though, in the first half against a set OKC team, and Big Zoo had to be better with some of those plays, too. I mean, there were plays to be made where he turned the ball over. He had 4 turnovers. Let's go through the turnover list, shall we? It is the name of the game, and it's why the Clippers lost this one, I guess. 24 total. 2 for Terrence Mann, 3 for Derrick Jones Jr., 4 for Big Zoo, as I mentioned, 3 for Norman Powell, 5 for James Harden. Of course, he has the ball in his hands far more than anyone else, and that's the highest usage rating you would expect it. He also led them in the assist department with 9. 2 for Nico Batum. You know who didn't have a turnover and had 8 assists? Chris got that dog in him done. Chris Dunn had a hell of a game, guys. I can't say enough about how well he played. He played, I don't know, like something like 13 or 14 straight minutes from midway through the third till midway through the fourth quarter. Something in there. He had a big rebound and putback over 2 defenders early in the game. He had the big 3 that killed a 14-0 run in the second quarter by OKC. That was one of the big runs, the biggest run, where things started to get away from the Clippers, or the turnovers were coming in bunches. You can point to that for one of the reasons they lost this game. He had another 3 with 30 seconds left in that second quarter. He had that hustle play where he got to the floor on a loose ball quicker than I've seen just about anybody. But the last 2 fouls he picked up, soft, tender fouls. Just not exactly a hard hack-a-shack type foul. But that's the way they were calling it. And the Clippers put themselves in a position with all the turnovers to where they were in an uphill battle against themselves and maybe against the officials in some ways. It was a poorly officiated game, I felt like, that, yeah, it hurt the Clippers. Is it the reason they lost? I don't think so. But I know you guys were talking about it a ton, and I'm not going to avoid it. We're 11 games in, and this is the first game that I've said anything about the refs. I think it was obvious on some of those calls. It was just tough. Dunn saved a possession around the 9:32 mark of the fourth quarter. I mean, those hustle plays and the stuff he does is Pat Bev-esque. That's why he became my new favorite Clipper. I knew what he could bring. I said it before he played a game in a Clippers uniform. There's your new Patrick Beverley. Chris Dunn. And his on-ball defense is just incredible. Might be better in some ways because he's a bigger player than Patrick Beverley. Really, and that's very, very high praise. But 3 of 6, 2 3-pointers for him, and 8 assists to 0 turnovers. He ended up a team high +4 in a game they lost by 6. That's one where I look at the box score and the plus minus, and it lines up with what my eyes saw. When Chris Dunn was out there, they won those 27 minutes. Make it about 28. Quick timeout. We'll come back. 866-987-2570. 866-987-2570. If you're in the chat and you're scared to call, don't be. You can call in too. Let yourself be heard tonight. I'm Adam Osland. Here on Clippers Talk, post-game, after they lose 134 to 128, battled back down 20 in OKC, but not good enough. They'll be in Houston on Wednesday. More on that coming up right here on AM 570 LA Sports. Clippers lose late in OKC after they made a run and Norman Powell had 29 of his 31 points in the second half. Here's one of the most encouraging takeaways. First of all, they figured things out eventually with Ivica Zubac. That is something that needed to develop, and they needed to show some progress in that area, how they can play against small ball lineups with Ivica Zubac. They figured it out eventually. So hopefully next game they can start quicker. The other thing is Norman Powell in the first half, guys, had 2 points. And how many shots did he end up getting up? He was also in foul trouble. So, I mean, that's part of it. He had 3 fouls in the first half. He got 3 shots up, 0 of 3. His 2 points at the free throw line. He came out like a demon in that third quarter. I mean, I know he wasn't a Deacon demon or whatever. He was a Bruin, but he torched the net in the third, including one of the toughest shots that anyone has made all season, not just in Clippers games, in the NBA. That far side corner three falling out of bounds to beat the buzzer to end the third quarter was incredible, electrifying. And they couldn't shut the water off. They couldn't do anything about it. Once Norm caught fire, one of the most capable teams in the league to guard Norman Powell with all the defenders they have in the OKC Thunder, the best defense in the league, they could do nothing. 29 points in the second half. In fact, how many minutes was that he ended up playing in the second half? That's what I'm curious about here. So 15 in the first half, and then he ends up at 36. So what is that, like 19 minutes in the second half? Is my math right? 15, 21. Yeah, 21 minutes in the second half, and Norm had, in those 21 minutes, he had 29 points. That is special. Norm continues to play like an all-star. Even when he didn't have it in the first half, was cold. Ase Frio, it did not matter in the second half. Scorching hot. To turn a game around like that is really important. I think for a guy who's coming into his own look, he's capable of this because he put in the work, but it's still different actually going out and performing. And now I'll have more confidence. If he starts slow in a game, it doesn't matter. He can turn it around. I mean, that layup he had in the fourth quarter, splitting the defense, left-handed, just incredible. Norman Powell, where did he end up from 3 at? 5 of 8. What is this? His 9th game with 5 3-pointers? Who has more games with 5 or more threes made than Norman Powell at this point? I think LaMelo was in there, or maybe Jason Tatum. They were competing in that area. Zach O'Caldy pulled that stat last time. K. Newton doesn't care, and that's fine. Everybody has their strengths. But I just can't believe that he could start that poor and finish that strong. 31 points, 29 in the second half. 29 in 21 second half minutes for Norman Powell. So build off of it. I say after wins, there are things you can work on. We talked about that after holding on against the Toronto Raptors, after having some really bad mistakes down the stretch against Sacramento when they were up big. How many double-digit leads have they had? Almost every game they've had a double-digit lead. So now you got a loss, but there are lessons to be learned. There's plenty of good stuff to take away from this ultimately disappointing defeat. And I'm hoping they build upon some of the good stuff that they learned in this game against Houston on Wednesday. Tip-off for that one is at 5 p.m. We'll have your pregame show starting at 4. Oh, we got one more? I thought this was it. And there's your 25th turnover of the night. We'll add one more on. That was my fault. I thought this was the final segment. We're coming back here for one more. Clippers end up losing 134-128 in OKC to the Thunder. Serves me right. I called out Katie, and the karma hit me right back in the face. Karma police has arrested me. More Clippers talk here on AFI 70 LA Sports. Clippers lose in OKC. It was the first game so far this season they haven't led by double digits. They certainly had double-digit turnovers, 24 total. That's what did them in. We've talked about the officials some, but in the end, you missed 9 free throws. You have 24 turnovers, 10 in the second quarter when that 14-0 run happened. They just came in bunches over and over again. They couldn't even get a playoff. Clippers need to regroup, figure it out, taking on a good Houston Rockets team that has more than just standings implications. The OKC Thunder choose who they pick swap with between the Clippers and Rockets after this season. So you want to be ahead of the Rockets. So they want the better of the two picks, which means you want to be ahead of them in the standings ultimately. So huge 2-game mini series coming up Wednesday and Friday. Before we get out of here, I do want to thank the Clippers organization. Ralph Lawler, Brian Seaman, Noah Eagle, Carlo Jimenez on the call. Big brother Jake Warner. What's up, my friend? Happy Veterans Day. Those who are serving and those who have served. And a big thank you to our producer, Katie Newton, tonight for not rubbing it in too much when I thought that was our last break. Maybe a little bit. Until Wednesday, I'm Adam Oz, and we will talk to you at 4 with your pregame show then. Clippers Talk After Dark coming up on Clippers Talk on the YouTube side in just a little bit, guys. Don't worry.